Saddle up your horses.
Pitter patter, let's get at her. It is another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast, and we are excited to be joined with here as a guest, Jolene Malumba. Did I get that right?
Malumba, close.
Okay. Well, Jolene, thank you so much for hopping on with us. This is you said that this is not your first time doing a podcast, but it is your first time doing a Broncos related podcast. So thank you for having us be the first Broncos podcast that you were a part of. So thank you so much for hopping on with us.
Heck yeah. Thanks for having me.
Brandon, as always, is along for the ride. Matty could not make it tonight. But Brandon, how are you doing?
Doing well.
You're all moved in?
Finished moving, which, God, I hate moving. But I'm good. I upgraded my desk. I have a standing desk now. I'm in the 21st century.
Woohoo.
And I also noticed that there was some interesting moves that happened, which we'll talk about. But I'm catching up on. I didn't really look at social media while I was doing this move, and there's some things that have occurred that I'm eager to talk about. So I'm excited.
We do have a lot to talk about. So in the vein of not talking about the Rams game, sadly, with it being the last preseason game, and of course the 53-man roster being initially set. And we should qualify that because it is the 53-man roster, which is subject to change. You know, you always see that little layer, in a teacher syllabus that says it's always subject to change. That's the case for a 53-man roster, is that it is always subject to change. Want to remind people that if you guys are watching on Twitter, we appreciate that you guys are watching this video, but sadly, the comments that if you guys are contributing on that video will not be shown on the video. But thankfully, you can comment, and so go over to MHRT Network, the YouTube channel, and type in the comments, or you could go to the MHRT Network Facebook page or the Manely Broncos Podcast Facebook page and type in your comments there. We also have super chats now, so if you guys feel necessary to give us a super chat, that is entirely up to you, no pressure. So thank you guys.
I had $1 for every time Cam said pitter patter.
Well, I mean, technically, I only say it like once, and that's like the beginning of every single show. So
yeah, but this is show what? 690. Nice. I don't know. Yeah,
but yeah, we have.
We're not gonna ever call it X. Just it's Twitter.
It's like Ball Arena, Pepsi Center, Mile High Stadium. We're just always going to call it, that particular way of life, if you will, for a stadium. Sure. So, Jolene, one of the cool things that we do whenever we have Bronco fans on that are either new or like reappearing on the show, like we had John recently on, and it was the first time for a live show, so it had fans to get a chance to see John for the first time.
Right.
But one of the things that we like to do is ask Bronco fans, how did they become a Bronco fan? So before we dive into the 53-man roster and anything like that, how did you become a Denver Broncos fan, or I should say a Denver sports fan altogether?
Right. Yeah, that's really what it is for me. It's not just Broncos. I'm one of the few that still hangs with the Rockies. Got the Avs and the Nuggets. Yeah, right. Those purple guys across the town.
The ones with the amazing stadium, but the team that's inside the stadium is
right.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh man.
Pain.
So how did I come? Well, I'm like a 5th generation Colorado native. So my grandparents, they were Broncos fans. So therefore this is my dad's family. So they were all Broncos fans. So it was just passed down, when I started really paying attention, we had the Orange Crush going on, and Carl Mecklenburg was turned into my favorite player. And the rest is history, honestly.
Pun intended.
Honestly. I grew up with the Broncos, and it's just stayed that way. And yeah, went to school in Golden and got to go and see some games when I lived there. And
Very cool.
yeah, good stuff.
So who's your favorite player? Like, if you were to go over the course of history, who's your favorite player?
Mike's cutting out.
So current player or historical player?
Just in general for the Broncos, like who's your favorite player?
Oh man, that's hard.
Let's say historical just to make it slightly easier.
Historical, because I have to stay with Carl Mecklenburg, the albino rhino. He's up there. Man, I could name so many though. You know, between Trill Davis, John Elway, of course, Steve Atwater. Dennis Smith was actually a really fun guy to watch back in the day.
Okay.
Peyton Manning, when he came, that was amazing. DT. I think currently my favorite player is probably Justin Simmons.
Good choice. I mean,
Cameron is.
Yeah, right.
Cameron approves. Okay, we don't talk enough about how amazing the albino rhino is as a nickname. Like, that's got to be.
That's an all-time
on the Mount Rushmore of sports nicknames, and like no one ever talks about it. I've never heard it mentioned. Carl, the albino rhino. You never
heard that?
No, I've heard of it, but no one talks about it. Like I don't hear anyone mention it currently. I've heard of it. I know who that is. But no one talks about it. Like no one ever even mentions, oh, you guys remember the albino rhino? Like no one says that. They should.
Exactly.
So Kamani chimes in. He says PS2 is his favorite now. Now, obviously, this doesn't really need an introduction. Obviously, Dulcich's number one fan is in the YouTube chat. So of course, he's gonna say Greg Dulcich.
The hair.
The Weird Al Yankovic hair, or the or the Inigo Montoya hair, right? Because those are like the two predominant comparisons if we're going off of Dulcich, I should say.
Oh, definitely could definitely be a Three Musketeer guy,
right? So
I'm waiting to be able to allow Russ to be my favorite player. You've been called out, man. You've been called out. Prove it. Okay. Prove it to me, please. Please let me say you're my favorite player.
So Jen Pearson chimes in. She's a big Oklahoma Sooners fan, so of course she's gonna she's gonna say Marvin Mims. I guess probably 1B would maybe be Nick Benito. I'm just kind of spitballing on that one, but
Matty just twitched.
Right.
In his sleep. He's asleep. He can't make it tonight, but he's just like, someone said Oklahoma. He's like,
what?
He's just like twitches in his sleep.
It's like
someone walks over his grave.
So it's the Oklahoma.
Hold on. Big Mike, the Croatian sensation.
Is that actually real?
Someone make this a shirt. Right now. With this characterization with the hair. I need it immediately.
We need it confirmed if that's actually his nickname.
I'm Googling this right now.
Kamani chimes in as far as the past, and he says he loved the Three Amigos back in the day, and of course Steve Atwater.
Of course.
Ray chimes in. Hey, good evening, Ray. Hope you're doing well. Do you guys want to jump right into it? Of course, we've been talking about Greg Dulcich, so it seems fitting to kind of use this transition to talk about the 53-man roster. It's set. So as we said, the 53-man roster, it's not the first it's not the first and only time that they will ever make any moves. There will be, of course, moves that are done tomorrow, on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever they decide to do moves. It's not the final product, right? And of course,
it better not be.
And of course, the practice squad as well is also possibly not set in stone. And I will say it's worth, for clarification's sake, that there are 17 players that are on the practice squad this year. You typically hold 16, but the reason why they hold 17 this year is because a guy whose name I will not even say out loud because I cannot pronounce him, is an international player, and because he's an international player, I'll just say Haagen-Dazs. That's kind of like what
It's close.
it seems close.
What,
but,
Haggai Nabusi or
yeah,
something like that.
Hagasi Nabusi, basically, right? Something like that.
Mhm.
Hagai Chizom Nodabusi. I don't know if the D is silent. Nabusi. Nabusi.
But because he's an international player, it gives them the option to carry 17, instead of that 16, and it's
Right.
all
Should take advantage of that more. Okay,
All
update.
right.
I have found one Croatian sensation hashtag from the St. Anthony Croatian Catholic Church when Greg Dulcich was nominated for Rookie of the Week last season. So there is something out here. We have to bring this back.
There's something there.
We have to bring this back. I need this as a shirt.
But any initial takeaways for you guys? And Jolene, you're our guest, but
Yeah, Jolene, go first.
any initial takeaways from what we've seen so far with the 53?
Honestly, I was surprised that 4 receivers remained and everyone else went to practice squad. So that one was a surprising thing to me. It feels like that one is not set in stone yet. Holding on to 10 O-line, that surprised me. I was expecting like 8 or 9 maybe, but I think Pelchleski is going to be going to
lineman. You're talking lineman.
Yeah, lineman. So Pelchleski is probably heading to IR tomorrow, day after, wherever, with his hand. So that's probably why they had that many. I know.
He was because we had 4 undrafted free agent rookies. That's got to be a record.
It is.
Yeah,
I think that's a record. That's insane.
And actually, there is an unprecedented stat, even dating either before Elway or during Elway, where this is now the 19th time in 20 seasons where a Denver Broncos undrafted rookie has made the team.
Yep.
Which is absurd. And
so that dates till before Elway.
Whoever they have in whoever scouts their undrafted pickups, give them a raise, give them a house, give them a whatever they want.
Don't let them leave the building.
Give them a jacket with a Skittles dispenser in it. Only the real ones will know this.
Nice to the city, man.
Don't let them leave. Don't let them leave.
Nice Trevor Siemian reference there.
I love that.
But what about you, Brandon? What are some of your initial takeaways? Obviously, the wide receiver one is a big one.
That was my takeaway. 4 wide receivers, and one of them is injured. There's absolutely no way.
Yeah, technically it's 3.
If anyone watches Brooklyn Nine-Nine, as Wunsch says when she sees deodorant, I'm not buying it. There's absolutely no way. There has to be something that they have up their sleeve. I don't know if it's like a signing. I don't know if it's a trade, which just all the trades, I guess, after we traded for Will Lutz, which we'll get into. There has to be something there. Like there's absolutely no way with the injury history we've had there, with the injury of Jerry Jeudy, the injury history of something. Like you literally cannot go into the season with 4 wide receivers.
Yeah.
No.
Something is going to happen there. I don't know what it is, but that was my initial takeaway was like, what? And there, like, obviously there has to be a corresponding move too. So I don't know where that's going to be. And then, I mean, we saw the Alberto get traded, which it kind of sucks. I mean, I feel like we didn't really use him correctly. And I know like he wasn't a great blocker. I get that. And that's a big part of it and super important, but you need to score points. Like you need pass catchers after those injuries. You can have 4 in the wide receiver. Do whatever it takes to keep him. And I like Nate Adkins, but like you're telling me you couldn't beat out Nate Adkins? I don't know. Maybe it was like I don't know. Maybe it's just they really believe in Dulcich, which I mean, hey, again, the Croatian sensation. I don't blame them. I believe in Greg Dulcich too. I love him. Maybe like they were just wanting to have. Maybe they felt like him and Alberto were kind of like too similar, and they had a specific kind of framework they were going for. Where you have Chris Manhurst, who's obviously the blocker. You have Dulcich, who's like more of the receiver. So I don't know. Maybe that's kind of what it was, but that was kind of surprising to me. But no, for real, the wide receivers was like, what? the hell? Like, there's no way that that's gonna stay.
Yeah.
Like, so who? Like, I know we're still talking about like, what our initial reactions were, but what would you do there? Like, either of you, because I feel like there's has to be a move brewing. Like, I don't know if it's a trade. I don't know if it's Sean trying to get someone else from the Saints. Maybe we should try to bring back.
Surely we're running dry.
Marcus Colston.
Well, I was surprised they cut Marquez Callaway. Like, maybe that's one of those like vets that they cut and then immediately bring back. Which like Mike Purcell is
can't do that now. He's a Raider.
Oh, he was a Raider. I forgot about that. This is why I what happens when I can't keep up with social media.
Well, actually, to your credit, though, it actually happened like 45 minutes ago or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has Mike Purcell been signed by someone yet? Please tell me no.
No.
Okay. So Mike Purcell is in that camp too of the guys that get cut and then immediately come back. God,
I think they're waiting for IR moves.
Maybe IR moves.
Because with the IR moves, then Purcell will come back in, I'm sure.
Isaiah McKenzie just cut. Let's bring Isaiah McKenzie back.
He just signed with the Indianapolis Colts.
He just signed with the Colts?
Oh, wow.
I'm 0 for 2 right now.
So I will say in terms of Alberto Cuevanom, it was just he was doing consistent. And I will say, and I mentioned it a few times like on the shows, I disagreed with George on this because it's when he said it wasn't really an Alberto or a Nate Atkins thing. Come on. Like when you're deciding a 53-man roster, you're choosing
it's completely that.
It's completely that. You're choosing a player over another player, and really at the end of the day, just Alberto could just never, get over that hump. And I mean, you could argue as bad as it is in terms of a preseason game, that was maybe the best game we've ever seen from Alberto in a Denver Broncos uniform. And he was he was just way too inconsistent. And
it was against DoorDash drivers. Let's be a bit more fair.
Good point.
Yeah. But
I mean, there was that Houston Texans game where he just flat out killed guys left and right.
I think that was the one where he took that seam pass like 80 yards.
Yes.
That's his one claim to fame.
Yep. That's it.
I still think we used him wrong.
Yeah.
We did.
And I think that the one thing I will say is, and this is also to Greg Dulcich's credit, is there's just something about Dulcich, because let's kind of do a tail of the tape back to last year. And, for some reason, Alberto Cuevanom was in the doghouse. For some reason, the first 4 weeks, he was inactive for a couple of games. And then Dulcich was on IR. And the moment that Dulcich comes off of IR, Alberto Cuevanom doesn't even play, and Dulcich, comes in and plays exceptionally well, and obviously becomes one of the, the huge, successful, pieces of potentially what could be in the Sean Payton offense. I think the other takeaway that I have, and aside from the wide receiver room, is I think if you were to look at the defensive back room, and specifically defensive back room, not the safety room, I was surprised they kept Tremon Smith.
Me too.
That's
Special
the other
teams.
But that's the thing. He offers it though. But like if you go look at what he's done in camp and what he's done in games, they've never even experimented with him back
returning
there
or anything.
And maybe they just trust him.
Maybe it's not a returner. Maybe it's like as a gunner.
Gunner.
Yeah, but I don't know. But you can also maybe play if they're doing this whole musical chairs thing with the 53-man roster. Tremon Smith would probably be, and unfortunately, the first name that comes up as far as a player that maybe you're wanting to move on from when Purcell comes back. Also, a little nugget on the wide receivers. Philip Dorsett is a Bronco. He is going to.
He's on practice squad though, isn't he?
He's on. Right. And I think that's the interesting thing. It's so like
signing him to the practice squad.
Maybe it was one of those practice squad and then elevate to the active roster.
We don't know though. Like they signed him to the practice squad, but maybe they have.
There's got to be something. There's something that's going on.
Jalen Reagor was just waived.
Oh man, Jalen Reagor.
Yeah.
What a whiff by the Eagles.
Yeah. No, not No, yeah, it was Eagles, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the Eagles that drafted him. I was super in him coming out, and like to be fair, he didn't really perform. He had like a massive problem with drops, but I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on him.
The other one was Austin Watkins Jr. I don't think he was picked up at all. I don't know if he.
I don't think so. Haven't seen it at least.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as long as we're talking about this, who was like? We already kind of went over the rooms. Who was like the most surprising cut to you? Both of you.
Go ahead, Jolene. If you already know already.
I don't know, because like with the vets being cut, it feels like they're going to be brought back when others are going to be put on IR, because we know that there's at least 3 players who are going to be put on IR, and so there's that. I mean, honestly, I was surprised that Traymon Smith remained a Bronco. I was not impressed with him very well.
Over like Delonte Hood, who had a really good camp.
Yeah.
Right. Or oh gosh, I can't even think of its name. The guy that they brought in starts with an M. But yeah, I guess I didn't really have too many surprises of who made the team. I was excited that Garcia made it. I guess I was surprised that Lancaster did not, just because he didn't play in that last game, so it felt like he was, a starter or something like that. So that was surprising to see him cut.
I will go on the defensive side of the ball. And this is a really popular name. If you guys have tuned into 5280 and of course the Elevation Orange show, which is on the PSF app. If you guys want to download that on the App Store, do so. The other one that I mentioned, and there of course is Aaron Patrick. I thought Aaron Patrick was, maybe a little bit of a surprise. But
Sure.
To Incoom's credit, he played exceptionally well. I just think that it was interesting that they decided to move with Incoom and not Patrick, which we all know Patrick is known for being a special teamer, a really good special teamer. So it's just interesting. I mean, and I said it before, but given the unprovenness of what Incoom is going to be bringing, I wouldn't be opposed if they brought some more of that pass rush depth, for this team. But yeah, Patrick was a surprise for me.
It was kind of surprising to me that Henry Bird was cut, the tackle. He had a pretty good preseason. I mean, again, take this as you will. I believe he was made one of the highest rookie grades from PFF in the preseason, which again, I mean, take those as you will. Like I definitely don't put a ton of stock into that, but he had some nice plays. And like, God knows we need tackle depth. Everyone needs tackle depth, but we definitely need tackle depth. And maybe it was like, they prefer a veteran there, which I can't really blame them, but it was somewhat surprising.
Yeah.
True.
And I think that's actually a huge credit to Alex Pacheski, right?
He killed it.
I think, and I said this, I think if you were to make the comparison to Zach Strief, it almost feels like Pacheski is almost like a Strief type of guy, and especially coming from the Brett Bielema system of Wisconsin, and Wisconsin grooming the, should I say, those Wisconsin tackles. Ryan Ramczyk certainly coming to mind, being a New Orleans Saint. I think it's interesting that they're looking at a guy like that. And the Broncos, for all intents and purposes, I would say maybe aside from Calvin Anderson, and we liked Calvin Anderson, but they've really not had a true developmental tackle. And I think that what he could bring is someone that they could actually develop maybe long-term, and he could be the guy, or maybe even next year. Like if they decide to move on from Garrett Bowles, it's certainly a risky deal, but like maybe he's a guy that you could slide in there and he could be your starting left tackle at that.
that's been our Achilles heel, and maybe not Achilles heel. But the tackle position has been our Achilles heel, but the way that we've shot ourselves in the foot with this for years is we just don't invest draft picks into that position, other than Garrett Bowles, who
And
I
that
would
was a
say
reach.
turned out. It was a reach at the time, and it took quite a while for it to come to fruition. And it definitely, I wouldn't say he's a bust. For a little bit, he definitely looked like a bust, although especially recently he's kind of been, he got a bit better at the end, thank God, but he's been kind
Still
of
up and
iffy.
down.
He's still up and down, which is not fantastic, but we really don't we don't draft the young guys there at all. And I mean, we have before. John Elway has tried to. Peyton really hasn't much, but that's what it takes. You have to like invest the draft picks into the position and groom these guys and develop them, because you can't always just go pay someone top dollar to come in, because like there's so few good tackles that even if a decent one becomes available, you're gonna have to overpay to get him.
Exactly. Look at McGlinchey.
I like, and there's another guy whose name I will not mention from the Dolphins. That was even worse. And then there's other names that I will also not mention, like Watson. But we definitely should have. We should have invested more draft picks into the position, because, like, you look at the difference between what we do and what the Eagles do, and the Eagles are one of those teams. Just they have an abundance of good offensive linemen. They're the one team that has like actual good depth. It's actually insane how good of depth they have at the offensive line, because they draft an offensive lineman. It feels like in the first round every year. They just take offensive lineman. And what do you get from that? You have a great offensive line for years. Like,
or defensive line.
It's not the sexy pick. No, and defensive line too. It's not the sexy pick, but
but it gets the job done.
But we need to do more there.
Yeah, man, they totally missed a home run last year. They could have gotten Abraham Lucas with that pick that they chose with Bonito.
Yep.
Oh man, that would have solidified our right tackle position for the next 10 years.
So,
well, then there's also what's his name? He's on the Browns that they just drafted.
Oh, the guy from
DeJuan Jones. Oh,
DeJuan Jones.
Oh,
that guy is
yeah.
Mountain. That man is a unit.
Almost like 7 foot, and
I believe we could have drafted him.
So I was good. So catching up on some of the comments. Big Mike, as the Greg Dulcich fan, he says they put McLaughlin at number 2 kick returner. Biggie Bronco chimes in and he says maybe do a big swing for a wide receiver, going after former CSU grad and wide receiver, should we say, Michael Gallup, and then going for maybe more of the fences with Tyler Boyd. I doubt you would do anything with the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, that'd be risky. I mean, given what their window is, I doubt that they would be moving on from those particular weapons. All three of them.
Michael Gallup is interesting, actually, because you might be able to get a deal for him done. I mean, part of me would think that Jerry Jones thinks that they're. Yes, it wasn't a crazy contract. He also was coming off of an injury.
That's the hard part with him.
That's the hard part. But I mean, you look at what Jerry Jones just did in trading for Trey Lance, which, I mean, there's a variety of ways you could interpret that move. But I was before that move, I would have said, yeah, but Jerry Jones believes the Cowboys window is open because he believes it every year, and he's believed it for Jerry Jones. That meme where there's like Cowboys fans like, no, the Cowboys taking it this year. That meme of like the jean shorts and the hat that's too big. That's Jerry Jones. That's Jerry Jones every year. But he might be in that I don't know about Dak kind of mood. So you could maybe get Michael Gallup.
Big Mike chimes in again. When we were talking about some surprising cuts, he actually said Callaway and Jordan Humphrey, and maybe that's actually a really good one. We're most surprising as far as cut, but even more surprising, they actually didn't try and bring Callaway back. And I will say that's a very disappointing thing if you're Sean Payton, right? because Callaway was a guy that you brought in that you're very familiar with. And well, and maybe it's also to that point, it's the production of what you were getting from guys like Brandon Johnson and Jalen Virgil that, you trusted Callaway, but he also played really poorly, but more so Brandon Johnson and Virgil were just that much better than you in camp for them to move on. And sadly, obviously Virgil got injured and, they had to move on from Callaway. So yeah, I think that's actually a really good one. What is it? D-Rock chimes in. He says, hello, Broncos country. Richie Rich, looks like he's in the house. He does say that Aaron Patrick was the shocking one for him.
I think it was just injuries with him, which really sucks.
Yeah. What is it? Bawana Beast has been on the Jordan Jackson train. Who's John, by the way? John K. He's a big Jordan Jackson fan. So we would be remiss if we didn't talk about this as well. The kicker situation. The Broncos decided to make a trade. And it was a talking point.
Denver Saints, man. The Denver
Saints. It was a talking point, of course, with social media and X, Twitter. Yeah. And it was a trade where the Broncos acquired Will Lutz in a trade with the Saints, who was playing, and we'll probably reinforce this, was actually kicking really well in camp with the New Orleans Saints, and he was just beaten out by a rookie in Blake Group. Obviously, we can interpret that in some way that, a rookie outshined Lutz. Well, no, Lutz was Group was just that much better than Lutz, in camp. But what was your guys' initial take on it? Because obviously, like, I don't. When I was kind of saying on Twitter, it's like I hate this. I was like, I hate the idea of trading picks for a kicker, knowing how replaceable that position is. But
well, is it replaceable though? I mean, so many teams have kicker problems. Double doink. I'm looking at you.
Right.
But I don't know. I have mixed feelings here. Like, on the one hand, I definitely don't want to trade for a kicker. It was a 7th round pick. I don't care about that. Like, that's basically an undrafted free agent. I really don't mind that compensation.
Right.
When I first heard about it, I think my first reaction was, we better not have traded more than a 7th. It was a 7th, so I'm totally fine with it. But I mean, Peyton clearly trusts him. Like, he wants the guys he knows he can trust. And even though Brett Maher was doing well in camp, you have to imagine that Sean Payton constantly has his eyes on playoffs. And I don't care about you kicking camp. It's when you kick matters, right? And if you're kicking in the playoffs and you have the yips, like, you're just gone. Like, he probably just didn't trust that because there's no pressure in camp. It's camp. We're talking about practice, right?
Exactly.
But the trade was interesting. I mean, definitely he seems to trust Will Lutz. But the biggest issue I had was just like, I don't think Will Lutz is that good of a kicker. He's okay. Maybe he was injured last year.
But the thing is, like, are we basing that off? Because
he was good before.
Year?
Well, okay, so yeah, he was a good kicker before last year. Last year, maybe something went wrong. He was injured. There was something where just like he kind of fell off. That was my biggest concern. Was like last year he just wasn't that good of a kicker. Before last year, he was a pretty good kicker. So maybe it was just like a 1-year blip. Sean Payton trusts him. He took a year off. Maybe he'll be fine. Maybe he'll be a good kicker. If he's a good kicker, I love it. I totally fine with it. But I really don't care. Like, I don't hate the trade. I'm totally fine with the trade. It was just interesting to me. At this point, I think we're one failed tight end jet sweep away from a Taysom Hill trade. But we'll talk about that when that happens.
What about you, Jolene? What did you think?
Honestly, I was waiting for it. I was pretty much expecting them to make a move if Lutz became available. And when he became available, boom, there it went. And I just knew it was going to happen.
Was that something that we kid? But is that something?
He had a core muscle injury.
But we kid? Is that just because of the Saints connection and what the moves that they've always made, or was it more to the simple point of maybe they don't trust Maher as much?
I think it was a combination, honestly. I think it was a combination of Sean wants this guy. He knows this guy. Granted, he was familiar with Mara as well, but Lutz to a fully different extent. And I mean, even different insiders with Broncos were talking about if Lutz came available, expect something to go. He did, and it went. So that's why I wasn't terribly surprised on that one. Yeah.
And it definitely could have been just a 1 year, because I forgot he had core muscle surgery, and he had that injury in 2021. Last year he had the lowest field goal percentage of his entire career. The second lowest was his rookie year. So Sean's not a bounce back.
I think that, and it's worth reinforcing from Brett Maher's perspective, and then it's worth reinforcing with Lutz. I think that it's unfortunate in this day and age of the NFL how one game can be detrimental to almost your entire career. Now, granted, Brett Maher,
one game in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But granted, he was quick to sign with the team. And by the way, smart on the Rams to jump on the idea to sign Maher, who kicked really well in that preseason game, obviously against the Rams.
Against them, right.
Right, against them. So smart on them to take a chance on that. But I think it's unfortunate that in this day and age, how one game, and obviously it was a playoff game, but you, in your career, in the career of the regular season, if you will, you are a 90% kicker, but the one blip you have in the playoffs is something that every single person will latch onto. Teams, fans, you name it. That's the one thing that they'll latch onto, and they may actually cut you the following year because of the fact that you were so inconsistent, or the fact that maybe they didn't look at the idea that, maybe it was the field in Arizona, right? And it wasn't really an equal playing field, and I think it's worth actually saying that. But the one thing that I think it kind of takes me in terms of a step back and like really appreciate the Will Lutz move is the idea that for the first time since like McManus's like early years, the Broncos actually have a kicker that they can actually have that chemistry with for people that were already, there, if you will, and grow that chemistry with, right? So, I mean, like, Will Lutz has the chemistry with Sean Payton. He has the chemistry with Will Lutz, right? And I think that having that for a period of time is something that I think will matter in the long run for this Denver Broncos team, even come, significant games, right? Against the Kansas City Chiefs, or, against like the New York Jets or the Buffalo Bills, if they, have a really close game with Buffalo. So those key games, it may actually come down to a big special teams play. And so you're knowing the fact that you're going to trust this guy, and you're not going to trust a kicker who's going to force his way onto the field because he wants to kick a 65-yard field goal, when time is getting ready to expire. Yes, I'm talking about that big elephant in the room, which is Brandon McManus.
I mean, yeah, like you talked about it with the big games. Sean Payton wants a guy you can trust, right? If he's, we're in a game against the Chiefs, we're down 3, it's a 48-yard field goal. Sean Payton wants to be able to be like, yep, all right, Will, you go in, you're it, right? So I can't blame him. I mean, I feel like I hate to bag on Brandon McManus because he was a great kicker for a long time, and I respect him, but he was not great last year, and it's hard to be, knock on wood, it's hard to be worse.
Yeah.
Right. Granted, special teams sucked all around. It wasn't just him. So
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's been the case for
Right.
ever. Yes. Since Kubiak.
Yeah, I mean, we joke, but I mean, of course, the Tom McMahon years, and even the
my God, Tom McMahon.
Even to a certain extent, I think the Joe DeCamillis years were a bit shaky, and he was touted as a special teams guru.
Right.
So
I mean, yeah, and I joked Denver Saints. Saints are a good team. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not mad about it. They've been a
Right.
good team for years.
Right. Any other final thoughts as we move along to the X factors and season outlook now that it's all, but any final things on the 53?
I just want to know what's going to happen at wide receiver. There's something brewing. I don't know what it is.
Make it happen.
Breaking news on this pod, please. Do something.
Right?
Right.
It's not going to happen at this time of the night.
Hey, you never know. We had the DJ Jones was breaking news when we were recording.
Oh,
That's
okay.
true. That's true.
Darnell Mooney could be available for trade, which blows my mind.
Maybe. So transitioning now to the season with the roster being air quotes set, and we're kind of looking toward the season, but we're also about a couple weeks or actually a week away from the first game against the Las Vegas Raiders. What first things first? What is something that you guys are looking out for first and foremost? And that's why I kind of blend the X factors with this, because sometimes those X factors are a big point in terms of how this season can go. So first things first, what is the big thing that you guys are looking out for? And we'll start with you, Jolene.
Big thing. The offense has an identity. They have not had an identity since Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
And I highly doubt it's going to be that identity. I believe it's going to be a run first, pound the ball down the opponent's throats, and then pass. So I think they're going to do a lot of running and picking up yardage and just beating down defenses, getting them so tired, and then they're going to throw some big plays out to a wide open receiver downfield because they took the bait, Yeah. So that's what I'm looking forward to, just having an identity on offense.
Okay. It's a great one. I mean, if you don't want to say Russell Wilson, or the relationship between he and Champagne, that's kind of what you would want, is like you would want an identity. Joey Richards, formerly, or not formerly,
Look at this guy.
the LTB.
Formerly.
He's going to go after me now. Yeah. Yeah. Joey of the LTB.
Joey just put a hit out on Cam.
Yeah, he put a hit on me. It's okay. I'll burn him and pick up football. It's okay. But what about you, Brandon? What about you, Brandon?
So I'm gonna approach this game by game, or at least for the first game.
You're such
The biggest thing, Raiders.
coach speak. It's such coach speak.
Sure, yeah, I'll be a coach. Go run 50 suicides. Why are you still here? So week one against the Raiders, like the biggest thing I'm looking for is the run defense, because as people may or may not know, Josh Jacobs did return with a enhanced 1-year deal, and he kind of has given us fits. Like Josh Jacobs has our number for some reason. Like I'm probably going to start him in fantasy, even though it's going to pain me. He just like absolutely goes off against our team, and we cannot allow that to happen if we're gonna get off to our hot start against the Raiders. So I want to know like that our run defense is up to the task, because it's been kind of like iffy. It's been hit or miss. Like again, he's just a great running back. Last year's the rushing leader, but just he seems to like open the NOS tank when he goes against us. I don't know what it is, but he hates us. So I'm really interested in that. Obviously, there's the whole Russell Wilson thing. I just want to know like what that balance is going to look like. D-Rock says it. I mean, we're going to run heavy, run the damn ball. Like that is definitely what's going to happen. I just want to know what that split's going to be like. I'm really interested to see Javonte Williams. Like on the one hand, part of like half of my heart is like, oh my God, he's back. Like how is he back? This is ridiculous. And then I've also seen like, there's been some notes from Pro Football Doc, I think, who basically was like, yeah, he seems back, but he's not 100%. Like there's some lingering stuff, which I don't know who to believe. To be honest, I mean, like, you never know. But the fact that he's playing at all is absolutely ridiculous. But we're going to need him, or we're going to need, Jaleel. I'm excited to see Jaleel, man. Jaleel is going to kill it. But Yeah, run defense, and run offense. Just the run, I guess, in general.
So, not to bring up a familiar conversation, Brandon, but have you taken
the one where you said that we're not going to have 1,000-yard rusher?
Yeah, have you taken a step back? Do you think maybe we're going to have a 1,000-yard rusher? Because I mean, I said that
depends on how back Javonte is, but I'm still saying that we are going to have a 1,000-yard rusher.
What do you think, Jolene? Do you think we're going to have a 1,000-yard rusher, or
especially with 4 wide receivers, 3.5 wide receivers?
Exactly. Someone's getting 1,000. Man, if only we had TD, we could have a 2,000.
Hey, TD, what you doing? What you up to, bro? Come on.
You're still in shape,
I know you
right?
stay in shape.
Oh gosh. I think it's very possible, especially if they do like a 50-50 carry going on, you could have 2 guys getting so close to 1,000. But actually getting over that mark, that's tough. That's what the last guy who did that was Philip Lindsay, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Javonte was
right.
close. Yeah,
he was super close.
Yeah.
So the only reason I say it depends on how back Javonte is, and it's not even just about him being good. The main reason that I originally believed that is I thought that we were going to give. It was going to be less of a split going into the year because we were going to have to. We weren't going to be able to rely on Javonte, and I honestly still think that's going to be the case. Like again, I think Samaj P. Ryan is going to surprise some people, and my original prediction of that was based on him. I was going into the season thinking, and maybe in the first month, he was going to get a lion's share of the carries. And you know what? I still think that's not a bad plan. But I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with that we're going to have a 1,000-yard rusher. I don't care if it's 1,000 yards exactly. It's happening.
So what'll happen is that a guy will hit 1,000 yards, and then he'll get like a 3-yard loss, and then his total yards will be like
997.
Still counts. He hit 1,000 yards.
Does it though? Not by the final tally.
I don't care. He hit 1,000 yards. Take the L out on your way out.
So I will say if you look at the X factors though, and of course the running game, Javonte is definitely an X factor because I mean you have no idea what he's going to be coming off that injury, and what he'll be like. We've certainly seen how well he looked in preseason, which is crazy. It still boggles the imagination. Obviously, Greg Dulcich's number one fan is going to like this one, but Greg Dulcich is a huge X factor for this team. I think there's quite a few safety valves actually with this Denver Broncos offense, which is I think something even with the 4 wide receivers, and that's like TBD because that's going to change. But I think that you have a few safety valves with this team, and one I think would be Marvin Mims, kind of like that Tyler Lockett type player. But I mean, Jaleel McLaughlin, I could see falling into that line in terms of the way you scheme up plays like they did Darren Sproles or, passes out of the backfield like Alvin Kamara, for McLaughlin. And of course, Jerry Jeudy. Jeudy and Sutton, I think, are going to fall in line, of course, with that. But I was going to say
Sutton is one of my X factors.
Sutton? So why do you say Sutton?
Sutton's going to be an X factor because, like, this is his year. This is it, man. He's had times where he's looked really good, then he kind of fell off the cliff a little bit. And if we're going to get back 2019 Sutton, it's 2019? God, that's actually, or 2020. I don't remember. His, like, really, really good year.
19.
It was 19? Man, that's 4 years ago.
Yeah. Well, 2020 was the Jeudy year.
That was the Jeudy year.
That was ACL.
ACL, yeah.
Sutton.
Oh, we're going to get back 2019 Sutton. We're either going to have to do one of two things. He's going to have to turn it on, or we're going to have to get a DeLorean. And I'm out of DeLoreans. The DeLorean is empty. So I think Sutton has the opportunity to have a lot of the target share in this offense, especially with who knows what's going to happen with Jerry Jeudy. I love Mims. He's still a rookie, rookies can contribute now. We've talked about this last year. Rookies can be elite their rookie year. So I'm not counting Mims out at all. Also because I think Matty would probably try to kill me. But maybe Jolene might too. Now I don't know. Are you a huge Oklahoma fan?
Not huge, but I like Mims.
Okay. I do too. I really like Mims. So he's going to be good, but I just think Cortland has that opportunity. Like right now, he's pretty solidly the number 2 wide receiver, and I still think Jerry Jeudy hasn't broken out yet. I'm not saying he can surpass Jeudy, but I think Cortland Sutton has an opportunity to show us that he is still Cortland Sutton and prove us all wrong. And if that happens, I think we will be in a much better spot.
So Joey chimes in and he says top 5 in rushing yards. Thoughts? He goes my bold prediction of where I apparently formerly was recording tonight.
Top 5 in rushing yards. Okay, hold on, Joey. I don't know if you heard about this. Cam's predictions, we're not going to have a single 1,000-yard rusher. Can you hit top 5 rushing yards, not have a 1,000-yard rusher?
I mean, what about Jaleel McLaughlin?
Well, if all 3 or 4, depending on how many guys that they end up running, if they all have 800 yards, I mean, that's 2,400 yards of rushing, right?
Yeah. And then, of course, you sprinkle in Russ.
Okay, but we're talking top 5 team, and you have guys like Jalen Hurts. You have guys like Justin Fields. You have guys like Lamar Jackson that contribute to that rushing total. So just looking at last year, top 5 rushers, 2022 Bears, 2022 Ravens, Falcons, Giants, Saquon Barkley, Eagles. And I already said Josh Jacobs was the rushing king of the NFL last year, and they're not even close to this top 5. So out of these 3 of the 5 teams, they have a rushing quarterback. Again, you want a rushing quarterback, get me a DeLorean and put Russ in it back 6 years.
I don't know. Russ is looking pretty good on his feet again.
He is. He's quick. I think he'll be
got
good.
Quicker.
But he's quicker. But he's not Jalen Hurts or Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson.
But I think he's smarter about it too.
Do I think that they could still hit it? Yes. But out of those 5, the last 2 had 2,500. Actually, 2,500. That's a 3-way tie. So actually, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 3-way tie for 4, and then 5 would include the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey. If you look at, it's a 3-way tie for 4. So it's a tall order. Do I think we could do it? Yeah, probably. If Javonte is back, and if again, Samaje Perine, I think is going to surprise people. Jaleel McLaughlin, we already know that guy's going to be a star. So I do think we could do it, but if we're going to do it, we're going to have it's going to be like a 70-30 split or like a 65-35 split. That's going to be heavy.
Well, it also has, they have to be committed to the run,
Yeah.
Last year they were not. The year before that, they were not. They haven't been committed to the run for so long.
Well, they've had injuries. Last year, I would say they were, but then Javonte.
I can't even say last year they were committed.
I don't want to say it. I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah. Well,
but do I think we could hit top 5? Yes. But you can't convince me that we can get there without having one 1,000-yard rusher when Russell Wilson is going to contribute. Maybe he contributes 250 yards on the ground, maybe 300 yards on the ground. Peyton is going to run the ball. You're going to give the ball to Sean Payton and get him run? Bold choice. I'm just picturing that other Peyton when Peyton Manning ran the ball and everyone on the Broncos side in the I think it was AFC Championship. And then everyone on the sidelines on the bench was like, holy shit. It was hilarious. But anyway, do I think we could get there? Yes. Do I think we can get there without having a 1,000-yard rusher? Probably not. Now, we're talking maybe top 10. Yes, I'm definitely think we're going to be top 10.
I think that, for sure it's going to be top 10. But in terms of the rushing totals, don't be surprised if we even don't get, 2, 1,000-yard rushers. I really don't think we'll get 2 1,000-yard rushers.
Maybe not 2, but 1.
Yeah, you may get one because again, the last time a team has had two 1,000-yard rushers, and Joey, if you're here, help me out on this one, and Brandon and Jolene, help me out on this one because I think that the last time a team had two 1,000-yard rushers was the Carolina Panthers, and I think it was D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart. I think that's
Nope.
I think that's what it kind of.
That was in 2009, bro.
And
No.
so it's,
Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram. Does Lamar Jackson count?
well, but well, it depends if you want to go off of the running back jokes. But we're going off of running backs, I guess, right?
This was in 2019. He was a running back in 2019.
Was he though?
No, he wasn't. All right. If we're talking purely running backs, then yeah, 2009, Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams was the last one.
Yeah.
But for a while there, that's wild. It happened in 2009, 2008, and 2006. Damn, there's some running years in there. Shit.
Yeah.
One of those is Michael Vick.
What about on the? We spent a lot of time on the offensive side of the ball. What about the defensive side of the ball?
Pass rush got to get after it, man. We did not have nearly enough pressure or sacks last year, and I know sacks on everything. That's why I did mention pressure. Like if you pressure the quarterback, good things happen. You don't even have to hit him. You don't have to touch him. You pressure him, he throws a pick. You pressure him, he rushes his reads, he misses the throw. He throws to the wrong. He goes to a check down. You have to get pressure. Pressure builds. Pressure creates diamonds. We need some diamonds. So we need more pass rush. Do I think we could get there? I'm more ecstatic about, not ecstatic. I'm more optimistic about this pass rush this year than I was going into last year. I still think
so many question marks last year.
I still think there's a lot of question marks, but they're in pencil. They're not written in pen, is what I'm going to say. Because I think there's more potential there, and I'm excited with what we've seen so far. Jonathan Cooper is going to be a dog. I am so excited for Jonathan. I want a 0 jersey.
Yes.
He is going to absolutely just massacre people, and I'm so here for it. Elijah Garcia is going to make some noise. So pass rush. We already know that PS2 is the best cornerback in football. If we see the rest of that room make, especially Damari Mathis, continue to look like he's kind of made that second-year jump, then I think it'll be good. But that's my biggest. If I had to boil it down to one thing on the defense, I would say the pass rush.
Yeah. If you were to single it out as far as the department, if you were to go off of that, it would be the pass rush. But I think specifically, you could probably pick a handful of guys from there. But the one that I am looking at, I actually was talking to Jolene about this, but Randy Gregory. Like, I think Randy Gregory is an X factor.
Gregory, yeah.
I mean, if he's there for a full season, which, you can't count on that necessarily, but like, if he's there for a full season, you're talking about a guy that is proven to be a game wrecker. I mean, go call up the game that he had against, the Seahawks, where he disengages from the tackle and literally got there as quick as a hiccup, to force the fumble off of Metcalf. I mean, it was a ridiculous play. And it's not just that, but there's numerous plays like, obviously in the 49ers game when he was with the Broncos, and then numerous games when he was with the Cowboys when he was on the field. So, I mean, he is a force. And when he can be on the field, that's the biggest thing, is your best ability is availability. If he can be on the field, that's numero uno for this team from the pass rush perspective. And of course, what will Baron Browning provide? Obviously, with him being on the PUP, right now, he'll miss the first 4 games, but there's that window that he could actually play with a vengeance come week 5, which we all know is the New York Jets possibly. So again, like, the pass rush entirely, I agree, is like the X factor of that room. And of course, Mathis, and you guys talked about that. But it's specifically, if you were to go off of one player, I was going to say Gregory.
Jolene, what do you think? Did you also say pass rush? What did you say?
Actually, honestly, our run defense has been not great over the past several seasons. I mean, we've been run over by Josh Jacobs. We've been run over by Austin Eckler. We've been run over by like every single runner out there. Our interior line has not been great. And again, it comes to injuries. It comes to scheme. And I'm really excited to see DJ Jones and Zach Allen and Jonathan Harris and Henningsen and all these guys come together and plug holes, not allow those bursts coming through the middle. If you can stop those, then it makes other offenses, they have to become more one-dimensional. They can't run that way. So now you're going to force them to pass. Hey, pass all day into our secondary. I dare you.
One last thing.
PS2 would be happy about that one. And so would I. So would Justin Simmons. This
is a nice little wrap-up, but one of the last things that is mentioned, Josh mentions, what is the ideal points per game?
Josh, bro.
More than 16. Oh.
Yeah, definitely.
Real pain. Right. 41. We had to score 41 every game. We had to hold them to 0.
I love it.
Last time. Go ahead, Jolene.
I'm going to say 27. Sounds like a great number.
Is that the answer to the universe? The meaning of the universe?
Sure. It's a factor of 3, and no. I just think, like the games that we played against KC last year, we had to get into the 30s to beat them. All the other games, if we had just scored like 19 points, we would have been, 15-2 or something? So we can trust our defense. We need our offense to do their job. So, I think average is like 22, 23 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be above average. So that's why I'm saying 27, because that'll give us a lot more dubs.
Yeah, so I will say 23 or 24, because I feel like 27 is just maybe asking
it's high.
Yeah. But definitely, because
27 would have been top 4 last year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is
what
I'm
here for it.
Yes.
I think the consolation prize for all of us,
all the way around.
I think the consolation for all of us would be just if they can get over the 20-point barrier. They can get over the 20-point barrier and they can win it consistently. Then you will be in a lot of games, because you said it, Jolene. It's like, even if it was 19 points per game, like they would have gone 15-2. Which is such a ridiculous number, because that also shows you how close Denver was in a lot of those games and how many one-score games they had in nearly every single game. So yeah. I say I truly, like, if they can just score within the 23 to 24-ish range, or just,
22.
22 is a good number. It's my favorite number.
We allowed 21.1 points per game last year.
Man.
We scored 22. It's not even that much of it's an upgrade on last year, but it's comparatively, it's really not that crazy. Like, let's see here. 22 last year would have been, wow, no one had in the 22s. That's wild. Would have been 14th best in the league. That's like just slightly higher than average.
Crazy.
Yep.
I'm here for it. I forget. I would love, if I'm picking a number, I'm going 24 because that's my lucky number. But I'm just going to say 22 would be a massive improvement, and we would win surprisingly more games if we only scored that.
Yeah. Though sadly, 22 still puts you behind Chargers and Vegas from last year.
It
They were at
does.
23.
But I mean,
But against the Broncos,
I mean,
they did
the
not score that
Chargers.
many.
The Chargers against the Broncos. If Josh Jacobs has our number, we have the Chargers number. And then also, I'm not scared of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think that's the thing from a Raiders side is what is the drop off, or will there be a drop off? We do have a Raider fan, in the chat, so I'm curious what his thoughts are. But like, I'm curious if he feels like maybe there's a little bit of a drop off, and obviously because Derek Carr got so much hate, from
Dude, I love Derek Carr. Now that he's not a Raider anymore, I'm a huge Derek Carr fan.
He's definitely rooted for, of course, but. Do you guys feel like there's a little bit of a drop off? Obviously, the wide receiver room, Jacoby Myers got added. Obviously, we know that Marquez Callaway got entered into the mix, but Hunter Renfrow was there. There's no Darren Waller. Obviously, Josh Jacobs is there. But I mean, do you guys think there's going to be somewhat of a drop off?
I mean, Davante Adams, there goes that man. That guy is freakishly good. And until he falls off, I'm not going to believe that he can fall off. He's just going to have, let's take a look at this here. Last season, he had 180 targets. Just bump that up by 25. He's got 200. He's got more than 200 targets this year. Just throw the ball to Davante Adams. The funny thing is, you look at Jimmy Garoppolo, and his aversion to deep passes, and that's all you saw from Derek Carr and Davante Adams last year was deep pass after deep pass after deep pass. It was actually beautiful to watch, to be honest. Because the funny thing is for Davante Adams, a lot of Davante Adams' career, not that Aaron Rodgers wasn't an incredible deep ball thrower, but Davante Adams was very good at taking the shorter passes and going the distance. He kind of, he's good at everything. So I don't even know where I'm going with this because he was also absolutely phenomenal at catching the deep passes. But I feel like you've seen it from Davante Adams where even if he's not going to have the deep balls from Derek Carr, Jimmy G is just going to have to hyper throw to Davante Adams. And unfortunately, that can hurt you. Now, do I think PS2 can contain Davante Adams? Yes. He did kind of struggle with him, to be honest, last year. But, I think he's up for the challenge this year, but I would say that is Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs are the only parts of that offense that scare me. Actually, they're the only parts of that team that scare me.
Yeah. I think the one thing in terms of drop off is we could assume, and I see assume. Now, granted, Garoppolo's not been in the McDaniels system for a while, but Garoppolo started there. Garoppolo started there in the McDaniels system. So I would imagine there's at least some knowledge of it. So I would imagine that there's not at least somewhat of, I don't know. It's one of those things
yeah,
I don't
but he's not good.
Yeah. So you don't want to praise it too much because obviously we're talking, maybe not kidding aside, we're talking about a quarterback that got a safety, so I don't know. It's just,
it would have been a pick six too.
It would have been a pick six.
I don't know. The thing about Jimmy G is, can he even last an entire season?
Yeah.
Not in this division.
Especially in this one. But, he hasn't played a full season yet, has he?
Not at least for a while.
I don't think he has. Even when he started for San Fran, he had, 7 straight wins. But he still got injured that year, didn't he?
Started 16 games in 2019.
Yeah, that's not all of them.
That's the highest number is what I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah, he hasn't played a full season yet. So my question comes down to the depth of their QB room. And as far as I know, their next guy up is a rookie. And that's not great. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Aiden O'Connell looked really good, though.
He wore number 4, by the way, and boy, did he kind of look a little bit like Derek Carr, a little bit. But
oh, that's right. Yeah, 2019. That was a full season. I've been so used to the
so it was 17 games.
Yeah, that was a full season. 2019. That's the one full season.
Yeah.
Still no playoffs.
Still no playoffs.
I mean, neither is Justin Herbert.
Well, I got
not a playoff win at least.
No, yeah, that's true. Not a playoff win.
Well, I got to say, Jolene, this was an absolute blast for you to come join us and have you be a part of the Manely Broncos podcast. This was fun. I mean, we touched on the X factors, potentially season outlook. We'll probably talk a little bit in terms of like the overall season come next week when we do a full on preview of like the NFC and AFC, because typically what we do is like the day of the week, like during the regular season or like the kickoff of the regular season, we'll do like our AFC and NFC previews of like where we'll pick our divisions and awards and stuff like that. So like we'll give a little bit more of a preview there. And tie it all in a knot. But Jolene, this was a blast. So thank you so much for hopping on with us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So in light, of course, with it being you on here, where can people follow you on X or on
whatever
Twitter?
This thing is?
Right.
So yeah, my handle is Uganda's Joy 01, 01. I don't know. And yeah, I'm always talking Broncos. I'm always talking football. Come draft season, I will mock draft you to death.
Drew, she's quite the draft guru, if you will, on Twitter. She's definitely part of that. So she's great. She's a great follow. So please go check her out. She's an absolute blast to interact with. And Brandon, per usual, you killed it. And thank you to everybody that is in the chat for hopping in. Raider Zach, thank you so much for your commentary. Obviously, Big Mike, of course, number 1 Dulcich fan. Thank you for chiming in. Josh, of course, Clayton. Sorry we didn't get a chance.
Still need that Croatian sensation shirt, man. Make it happen, please. I
will
buy it.
We do.
I will wear it on the pod.
Clayton, we didn't get a chance to see your comments, but yes, we saw one of them and we were able to share. But yeah, thank you for hopping in, and Biggie Bronco as well, Richie Rich. We had a lot of people in here. Of course, Joey was in the house. Jen Pearson was in here as well. Actually, first time Jen has been in here, so that was great to see. D-Rock, good to see D-Rock in here. John was in as well. So thank you to every single person that contributed on the show. It was absolutely a blast. And so Big Mike, as we ended, he says, I contacted the agent for permission to make the Dulcich merch.
I love it.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Right. Well, hey, thank you guys again for hopping on and really having a blast with us on another episode of the Manely Broncos podcast. Again, next week is when we will do a full AFC NFC preview, which includes award predictions, which is going to be an absolute blast. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you tune into that. So thank you guys again, and go Broncos.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go.